Hey guys, it's Julien, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make techno like Enrico Sangiuliano. So, as always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets, all that kind of stuff from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll be available there shortly. And yeah, let's get started. So here's the loop you heard in the intro. We're at 126 BPM, and the first sound I have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So with this style of kick, it's more about the type of sound you choose, you know. Usually with techno, you would have like a rumble kick or something like that. But in the case of a track like this, you have a kick and a bass. So you just want a kick like this that has a lot of punch, but doesn't have like the longest tail. Like it has a pretty long tail, I guess you could say. I mean, there's definitely some bass on there, but it's not like, you know, like a regular kind of like rumble kick. But yeah, so I just have the sample here. You can see I'm going through a drum bus. I've got a bit of drive, a bit of crunch. I've also got the transients up a little bit to make it kind of hit harder. And then I've got the boom up. I've got the tune to G sharp. That's the key we're in. After that, I just have this EQ8, which is just cutting out a little bit around like 240 hertz. Basically just some like boxy frequencies. Here's without it. And then with it. And then it's also making this little boost here because there's kind of like some nice mid-range. And you can see I've got the tuner there. Tell us what key it's in. After that, we have the respace, which sounds like this. Basically, what we've got going on here is I have two bass layers, this one and this one, which is a sub. They're both playing the same MIDI, and then I have them grouped together to kind of like make them more sound like one. So the respace on its own, like I said, sounds like this. Here's the MIDI. You can hear it's this kind of pattern. One thing I've noticed with these kind of tracks is that you hear there's like a certain rhythm here where it's kind of like on the upbeats. Boom, boom, like that. Like it's kind of like dun, 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 as opposed to, you know, if you just make it like this. It's not as interesting. So yeah, definitely an important thing there. And I have this little part at the end. Just to kind of give it like a cool kind of like warp sounding part. But yeah, and then for the sound on this one, it's made using analog. What we have here is we have two saw waves. You can see I've just got them detuned a little bit. I have those going into a low pass filter. The filter, you can see I have a bunch of automation on there. So it's just kind of slowly moving it. You know, it gives it some movement and some life. With these kind of sounds, you don't want it to just be like staying in the same place or just not moving. You want to have stuff on them that are kind of, it's kind of like constantly changing, constantly moving throughout the track to keep it interesting. So that's what that is. And yeah, the only other thing I have there is just a bit of unison, and that is it for inside of analog. After that, we have this phaser. You can see I've got the dry wet there, and we've got it set like this, and then I have the LFO on there. So here's without it. And then with it, you can hear it just kind of makes the synth have a lot more of an interesting kind of like crunchy, phasey kind of sound. After that, we have a bit of chorus just to give it a bit more kind of stereo dimension. And then I have this amp just distorting it. Here's without it. And with it. So you can hear that's really important. And yeah, after that, I just have a bit of drum bus. You can hear it kind of fattening it up. And then I have these two EQs. So these are just kind of like cleaning it up, you know. When you make a sound like this and you're using EQs this way, it's less about using them in like a kind of like way that could potentially mess up the sound, and more just about using them creatively. Like, this is not mixing EQs. These are more like kind of, creative sound design EQs. So that's why they have like such crazy shapes that you wouldn't normally do for mixing. But yeah, so I'm just using these to kind of dial back the sound, as you can hear, into what I want. After that, I just have a compressor side chaining it to the kick, and then this EQ8 here is sort of cutting out some low end and cutting this point as well. And then I also have an EQ8 here cutting out some high end, just because it's a little bit too sharp still. So yeah, after that we have the sub, which sounds like this. This one's a lot more simple. Basically, it's playing the same MIDI. It's just a square wave going into a low pass filter, and then I just have it being sidechained to the kick. That's really it. You know, this is just one of those kind of sounds. You just want to let it really be kind of like breathing and just let it be. You know, let it be. Don't try to mess with it too much. But then I have the kick or the basses in a group together as well. It kind of helps to make them sound more like one. You know, ideally you want this to sound like one bass as opposed to like very obviously two layers. So putting some group processing on them can really help with that. So here's with nothing. And then with it. So you can hear it's also kind of fattening it up. So the first thing we have is this EQ8, which is not really doing much, to be honest with you. It's just cutting out some kind of like muddy frequencies, and then cutting out a little bit of the like too sharp high mid-range frequencies. And yeah, after that we have this drum bus you can hear. Here's without that. And and with it. So this is just really fattening them up and kind of giving them that last little boost of power. I also have the kick and the bass in a group together. So we have the basses in a group, and then I have the kick and the bass, or the kick and the basses, I should say, in a group. And it's just like what I was saying with the basses. It just helps to make everything more cohesive, kind of make the low end sound tighter. Here's with nothing on the group. And then with everything, so you can hear a big difference there. So the first thing we have here is the drum bus. You can hear it's really just fattening everything up. That's what I've been using it for throughout this project file so far. And yeah, after that we have this EQ8. What I'm doing with this is just boosting a bit of low end, boosting a bit of high end as well for the punch, and to kind of get the respace sounding a bit more crispy. And then I just have this cut here, kind of cutting out some more of those muddy frequencies. And that is it for the low end bus. After that, we have the hi-hats, which sound like this. So basically what we have here is we have one hi-hat that's just doing like this. You know, just the constant 16th notes. And then we have this little stack here. I have a shaker for some mid-range, a ride for the like super, super bright high end. You can see the shaker, I have a little bit of reverb on it. The ride, I have a high pass. And then I have this hi-hat, which is kind of giving it some more like punch. Like, with your hi-hats in this style, if you just use, like, if I just use a shaker, for example, or just a ride, it's too weak. Like, you need it to have kind of some punch to it. So that's why I have these layers, to just really fill out the sound there. So yeah, that's definitely an important detail that I think can be a little bit hard to pick up on when you're new into producing. But then I have all the hi-hats in a group as well. And this just kind of, you know, again, it's like with the low-end bus, just putting all the similar sounds in a group, processing them together makes them sound a lot stronger and makes the mix a lot cleaner. So here's with no group processing. And then with everything. So yeah, you can hear a big difference. So the first thing we have here is the drum bus. You can hear that's really just fattening these up. You know, it kind of helps to take everything and just take it from just being like a raw sample and make it more like in the track, if that makes any sense, and kind of more glued together. After that, we have this EQ8. And with this, you can see I'm just cutting out some low end, kind of cleaning that up there, and then doing a bit of a high-end boost as well. Just kind of make it a bit sharper. And that is it for the hi-hats. So the next thing that we have here is the percussion, which sounds like this. Basically, this is three things. I have a clap, which you can see is just like this kind of like deeper, more low-tuned clap. This is usually the style you want because this needs to hit really hard with the kick. Like if you listen to them together, it can't be too soft or else it's not going to work with the kick. So, yeah, just kind of like a little bit deeper, like harder one like this. Then I just have a bit of reverb on that just to give it some space. A bit of erosion as well, which gives it kind of some nice crispiness. There's without it. And then with it, this is something I noticed Enrico Sangiuliano doing in a lot of his tracks. After that, we just have a bit of saturator, just kind of fattening it up. Here's without it. And with it, that really helps to make it stand out. And then the last thing we have here is just this EQ8 cutting out the low end. So then the other percussion that I have are these two rim shots, which sound like this. So you can hear I have this first one, just kind of playing there. This is sort of like just got a bit of reverb on it, and then a bit of drum bus to make it a bit stronger. And then you can see I have the second one, which is a little bit softer sounding, and it's got a bit of echo on it. So this one kind of has a little bit of a different sound. And yeah, you know, these just kind of help to fill out the beat a little bit and make it less boring, like without them. It's just kind of like the same thing constantly, but when you add them, you know, it really helps to add some extra ear candy. So then, like I said, I have the percussion in a group, just like with everything else, it makes it all a lot more cohesive. You can hear, here is with no effects, and then with everything. So it definitely makes a big difference in terms of, yeah, just making everything really work together in the mix. So first thing I have here is some drum bus, just kind of fattening everything up. You know how that goes. And then we just have an EQ8 just kind of cutting out some nasty low end and giving a bit of a high end boost as well to kind of improve the sharpness. You can hear it gives the percussion a lot more clarity. So after that, the next thing we have here is this drone, which sounds like this. Here are the notes for this one. You can see we're in G sharp minor, so we're just playing this thing where it's like G sharp, and then D sharp, the fifth of G sharp, then it goes up to B, and then a G sharp up there, and then we go down to D sharp. So, just kind of really playing around with the notes in a G sharp minor chord, because we have like G sharp, which is the root note, B, which is the minor third, and then D sharp, which is the fifth. It's really not that complicated. But then for the sound on this one, you can see that I made this one using analog. And what we have here is just one saw wave just going into a low pass, kind of dialing it back a little bit. You can see I have the LFO on the low pass to give it kind of some movement and not make it just, stay in one place the whole time. And after that, we have a bit of vibrato. You can see it's pretty important for getting these kind of like eerie sort of pads like he uses a lot. Like, you can hear without it, it's kind of dull, but with it, it gives it that, no pun intended, but it really gives it that vibe. And then I've got a bit of unison as well to kind of make it a bit fatter. After that, we have a bit of echo just to give it some space and some reverb. I like to use these two in conjunction with each other and not just have like just reverb, because the echo, even though this is a very like long ambient sound where you don't hear the rhythmic echoes so much, you still get like a lot of space from it, I feel like. So yeah, after that, we just have a bit of drum bus just to kind of fatten it up, make it a bit stronger. You can hear the difference there. And then the last thing we have here is just a compressor side chaining into the kick, and then an EQ8 cutting out the low end, and also cutting out here because there was a bit of sharpness, like right in that frequency range. So that's just cleaning that up. That's it for the drone. And then the last sound that we have here is this lead, which sounds like this. So what this is playing is just this little pattern. You can see same thing as with the other thing. It's just kind of like notes from the G sharp minor chord. Like we have D sharp, B. Again, D sharp is the fifth, B is the minor third, and then another D sharp down here. So not really that complicated, but it's just kind of like sitting over top of everything musical in here. And when you put all these elements together, it really builds something nice, even if they're all like very simple on their own. So for this one, I made it using operator, and what we have here is this sort of like FM pad sound. You can see I just have 3 sine waves. I've got the second one detuned a little bit, just kind of making like this waveform. And then I've got a bandpass filter on there, kind of dialing it back. So yeah, and then, a bit of subtractive synthesis. And then you can see I also have this LFO here. It's on the pitch. So what this is doing is it's just kind of giving everything that same kind of vibrato that was on the drone. Like with analog, you can just put it in. There's just a thing on the synth. With operator, you got to do it this way. So that's what that is. After that, we have a bit of echo. You can see I'm just giving it some space. Just like with the drone, even though this is more ambient and kind of like long playing, I still like to put some echo on it just to give it kind of a bit of more texture, if that makes any sense. After that, I have a bit of chorus to give it some space. Here's without it. And then with it, just kind of like, giving it a bit more dimension, a bit more stereo width. Then we just have a bit of reverb to give it even more space. So the echo and the reverb together makes a really nice full sound. And then we just have a bit of drum bus to kind of fatten it up. Here's without that. And then with it, you can hear, gives it a lot more texture. And then the last thing we have here is the compressor side chaining into the kick, and EQ8 cutting out the low end. And that is it for the lead. And with that, that is also going to be it for this video, guys. That is everything I have to show you. So, as always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Let me know what you want to see me do next. Make sure to hit that notification bell as well so that you get notified every time I drop a video. And yeah, like I said, you can get the project files, samples, MIDI, presets, all that kind of stuff from this video in the description. So make sure to check for that. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check the eggs will be available shortly. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow with another video.